That's correct. We do not have a quorum tonight, so we'll include that in the January 27th meeting.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Schneider. Alrighty, so I will turn it over to Mr. Schneider and Mr. Slaughter for informational item update, please.
Thank you, Ms. Murtry. Thank you for attending the Facilities and Operations meeting this evening. For the informational updates this evening, we have an update by Mr. Lynch from CHA regarding the high school project update. Mr. Lynch?
Unmuting. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. I think someone is driving and there's a presentation teed up.
I can bring that up, Dan, if you don't have it. All right, I'll bring it up. Here we go. All right, Jamie, is this the one we're looking for?
I believe it is. Thank you very much for December. There we go. You can go to the next slide. And maybe I'll first congratulate everyone because phase 1 is on the street, advertised for bidding of the North Penn High School project. So it's very exciting to finally be out of the gate. Just a couple of updates on current events with respect to the project. On the land development front, the team was in front of the township supervisors to provide a quick update. And then at the Planning Commission meeting on December 2nd, we've gotten the first review letter from the township consultant. And those responses will be generated along with some revised drawings. And we expect to be back at the March planning meeting again to address issues. And the civil engineering team has identified that they would anticipate right now final land development for the entire project anticipated for July of 2025. On the preliminary zoning review, there's always a lookout for items that would require some relief from zoning. The two most notable ones so far are the non-conforming uses of the existing transportation building and also the radio site. So far, we're on a track that hopefully we will not require any relief for those two items. We're working closely with the zoning officials in order to make sure that that's the case. Everything else hopefully is a lesser item that may need to go before zoning at some point in the spring. The Snyder-Hoffman team continues to coordinate with PECO for power, gas, and all things related to utilities. And so that coordination is ongoing by the design team. And we're also working with North Penn Water Authority on both water and also the sewer authority for sewer. Right now, we're waiting some responses from North Penn Water Authority after our request was made to work on the water lines that are on the school district site. We're looking to hopefully convey water lines on the school district site over to North Penn School District from the Water Authority. And that would also include new water meter pits that are required for the project. So we've got a collaborative process going there. And some of the early relocation of water lines is in phase 1 that would hopefully be taking place next summer so that we avoid any shutdowns while we're in school with kids.
Mr. Lynch, this is Mrs. McMurtry. Can you help me understand a bit more about the conveyance of the water lines and the purchase of the meter pits? Is that basically the structure we have now that we own them? And these will be additional ones that we will own? So
in summary, there's water lines on school district property owned and operated by the North Penn Water Authority. And so the plan is for the water lines that are on your property to be conveyed to the school district and 2 new water meter pits installed so on your property so that everything downstream of those meter pits is owned by you and everything upstream, if you will, of the meter pits is by North Penn.
Okay, thank you.
The benefit here is that we have an opportunity to possibly pre-purchase those meter pits if all things come together with the Water Authority, so that rather than waiting after we award bids for phase 2, we might be able to have them early for that contractor. So we're still working through that process. Tom held a meeting with North Penn Water Authority. Everything sounded good, but with any public utility, we have to see how the timing works out. Okay, next slide. Thanks, Dan. The NPDS permit for Montgomery County Conservation District. Phase 1 and Phase 2 are in the process of being submitted. We had a pre-submission meeting with the Conservation District on December 2nd, which was really eye-opening for the entire team because the Conservation District went through just about the entire pre-application and the submitted drawings, made comments, gave them back to the civil team to make some adjustments for the formal submission. It was a very good process. Nothing eye-opening jumped out on the page, but as everybody knows with the NPDS permit, this review is going to take some time. Our submission should go in from T&M late in December, and we've got a 6 to 8 month review. Unfortunately, there's no process for working through an expedited review with the County Conservation District. We did ask. And then for Phase 1, we have an early submission simply for an E&S permit for some of the site work that we're doing that's less than an acre. And so that justification was written by T&M, and that's going in for the removal of the underground storage tanks, the installation of the relocated propane fueling station, and that water line work that I just talked about. I see a question forming, Kathy. Go ahead.
I know. I don't have a poker face, do I? Excuse me. So I understood, and I guess I'm incorrect. Phase 1 did not require an NPDES permit.
That's correct. It requires a soil disturbance. I don't want to say permit, but we have to let them know that we're disturbing soil under an acre.
For for the underground storage tanks, right?
For the storage tanks, the water line, and the propane fueling station.
Okay.
We also, so for instance, we also have an acid neutralization tank that we're replacing in Phase 1. And so T&M has done a great job in wonderfully calculating all the areas of disturbance and identifying how it's under an acre.
Okay, and so my only comment here is that when I read this bullet, when I saw it, I thought, my question was in my head, Phase 1 does not require it. So if there's a way to pull Phase 1 out to correctly show what is needed and that we can be clear about Phase 2 is the phase that requires the NPDES permit, because I got very confused when I saw this one.
Okay. Sorry for that. Yes.
No, I mean, it just begged the question, but if it is about the soil disturbance and such, maybe a separate one for that.
Okay. Can do.
Thanks so much.
PennDOT permit, we continue to talk with the township and in hopes of avoiding a new round of traffic counts. The traffic engineer has submitted a formal request with his basis for using the existing traffic counts, so we're waiting on the township for that review. Our geotechnical investigation is complete. Our utility survey and topographic survey is being completed on the site based on comments from the township. So utility work and completing some topographic information and also some shots on the regulated dam is in the works right now and being collected by the district surveyor so that it can go in with our resubmission. On the next slide, more ongoing activities. Cost estimate for Phase 1 has been completed. A lot of comments have gone back and forth. We are in the ballpark of $28 million for construction cost on Phase 1 construction. Again, plus soft costs. And there's about 1.9 million in the contingency in addition to that 28 million for Phase 1. So I distributed that to the entire team today. There's some comments. There's been a lot of back and forth. So we'll keep refining as we go. Phase 2 design development documents have been received. We're working on that cost now. We've assembled a bid alternate list for the Phase 1 bids. The entire team was great at putting that list together. Bid forms are on the street, so we've got that complete list. Front-end documents are now complete, and along with the bid forms, and so they're in the package that's on the street. I thank everybody who completed efforts to get edits done there. There was a lot of great comment there. The RFP for pre-purchase of electrical equipment is out. Those proposals would be reviewed in January. I know the vendors had asked for a little bit more time, so they've got the holidays, I understand, in order to put that together. That'll still be a fantastic help for the project. And we've been working recently on how to handle the radio site and how we do the tower design. We've gotten some input from the solicitor on this. The existing towers have to be taken down with the exception of the one AM radio tower. And we've got to put, we've got to put a new tower design together to put the new AM radio tower up. And so we're going to put a bid package together for the unused tower demo to be assembled and put on the street as quickly as possible. We'd like to take advantage of winter weather on that site to take down the unused towers. And then we're working with the team in order to put the AM radio tower design together.
Mr. Lynch, I have a question. There is no, it's not feasible to utilize the towers that are planned to come down to be used as the AM
So
tower.
first,
Nothing's transferable.
the simple answer to that is that area up there, the radio site, gets 2 new athletic fields. The existing towers have guy wires that come down to the ground, so they all have to come down. The new tower would be freestanding, no guy wires, and put over to the access road to the school so that it's out of the way of the new athletic fields.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Next slide. So there's the same timeline for the phase 1 bid, which includes K-Pod, natatorium, limited utility work, and I might also say that in the construction of temporary classrooms in various places inside the building. So bids are due. The next date that's out there is January 30th. In the meantime, we'll have a pre-bid meeting, and I'll do a wonderful presentation for all the contractors to show them how easy the job is and how they should give us excellent bids. And we'll have this for the board to consider in February with hopefully a notice to proceed in March, natatorium to commence very late May, and K-Pod after the kids are out in June. You see the other work that's happening there and the dates for completion of K-Pod. Next slide is phase 2 renovation, and end user meetings continue with educators and stakeholders of all sorts on the project. Design development drawings have been received and are under review. We expect to be out to bid in May with an award in late summer. It all depends on the NPDS permit and, of course, us wrapping up design and still looking at total project completion anticipated at the end of 2030. There will also be an abatement bid for phase 2 that works on the same timeline as the phase 2 renovation bids. So we've got floors and windows and other things that require abatement. We've got a new hazardous materials consultant on board, and so we're steaming ahead to be prepared for that bid in the spring.
Mr. Lynch, do you have the date that the NPDES permit was submitted, the actual date?
I don't have that at my fingertips,
Okay.
Kathy, but I'm happy to, we'll get it funneled through to you.
All right, thank you.
If we go to the next slide, no real change with our phase 2 renovation schedule. We did sit down with the team, however, last week and look at the sequence of when we do the auditorium because it is a key phase in the work. Certainly because of performances, but also because it houses band, choral, the arts, etc. And those are loud classrooms that we would love to recreate for them so that we don't have to put them in temporary places throughout the building. So we are continuing to work on that, and we may go from A pod to B pod and then the auditorium, or we may go straight to F pod with the auditorium right after we do the A pod addition. So I don't want to get into great detail this evening on that, but that's what we're trying to examine the best way in order to minimize the disruption of doing the auditorium, maximizing our ability to start foundations on the addition to FPOD in the earlier parts of the project. And of course, make sure we have enough classrooms as we do this crazy renovation so that we can keep school in service. Next slide is our budget. I mentioned where we were, 28 million. or so on phase one. We're working now on what we have for phase two. I'll update everyone as soon as we possibly can. But everything that we've seen is that we're trying to stay right with that same 260 number. This slide remains unchanged from past meetings right now. And I believe that's the last slide before a thank you slide. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions that folks have.
No, I appreciate the update on the order of operations and the how to phase things in, and would be really interested maybe at a future meeting just to help understand how that looks. So understand that you're still very much in the works, but appreciate the updates as it goes along. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you.
The next item is the high school schedule. Mr. Slaughter had mentioned some things earlier about the schedule. There haven't been any changes to the schedule this month. And Mr. Slaughter had mentioned some of the changes that we expect to have next month. So if there's any questions on the schedule, myself, Mr. Slaughter, Mr. Lynch, or Mr. Schrader will be able to answer them.
Ms. McMurtry, you're muted. Can you unmute, please? Thank you.
If I have to, thank you. I know that there are a number of actual questions that are on the Gantt chart there. And so I know we already talked about that we anticipate, or you anticipate being able to provide updates on that. So I will defer to next month, Mr. Slaughter and Mr. Schneider, to see where we are with all of that. But I like the detail that's in it at this point. So thank you.
Yeah, as we go further along, a lot of those questions are being answered. As Mr. Lynch was speaking to earlier, we recognize that there was an issue with the auditorium, so we're looking to move that around. Mr. Case has put together, not only a phasing plan for K-Pod, but also we're working on the rest of the building now. So we'll get more definition as we go along, but we'll have an update for you next month.
But really the schedule is dynamic and it does change. So it doesn't have to be, that's the whole point of the schedule. So when we see it monthly, and if there's a revision date on it, and you all speak to what has changed, that's all we need. We understand it then. So I look at it as our roadmap and communication. So thank you.
And the final item of informational items is the 10-year capital plan. There has not been any changes since last month. Over the last month, there's been a lot of hard work on the phase one design, getting that out to bid. Also, we're working in the facilities and operations office, preparing for next year's budget. So we should have more information regarding the 10-year capital plan next month or in February.